Hey, seventh grade, this is going to be the first of some instructional videos on the assigned reading that I give you over the next 8 weeks. We'll jump into it here in a sec, but first, I think it's important that you get shown around your new classroom. So, without further ado, me and my buddy Chauncey and my buddy Mitch will show you around what we like to call the Bubba House. Pantry fully stocked with extra canned goods in case we have to shelter in. Kitchen complete with decorative oven mitts. Coffee maker is a necessity. Creepy laundry/storage room completely stocked with extra water bottles, golf clubs, and anything else we might need just pretty much goes in here. This creepy stitch of a clown, home gym. Wood shop, Chauncey. Now that's shit. Got this cool moped in case we need to make a quick getaway. We've got this shrine to a bunch of random saints to ward the demons off. Our own personal library complete with a bottom section to put our cowboy boots. Ceiling fan with only 2 blades. We've got Mitchell's massive movie collection complete with all of your post-apocalyptic survival favorites like I Am Legend, Zombieland, and World War Z. Indoor tomato garden, and a lot of musical instruments. Hope you guys enjoyed the tour of what we like to call the Bubba House. With that, I'm going to get you to your instructional video on the parables. All right, here we go. We have the parables, and if you remember, we took some notes on some parables earlier this year, specifically the parable of the talents, which we'll review again, but also just review the word parable, okay? We have coming from 2 Greek words, okay? Words meaning to throw alongside. All right. So it's literally, a parable is literally a comparison. All right. A comparison. And specifically, usually with Jesus' parables, we have a comparison that usually relates daily experiences to spiritual realities. Now, jumping in to the first parable I assigned to you, and it's very short, Matthew 13, 45, and 46, okay? Which, of course, we have the story, in very short, the pearl of great price, okay? And it's pretty straightforward message, right? We must give up everything for the kingdom of heaven, no matter what that is, whether it's money, possessions, power, whatever it is, we go, we sell it all, we give it all away because the kingdom of heaven is worth it, right? And we also see this theme echoed in another part of the Gospels, Mark, if you want to check it out, 8:36, okay? And Jesus tells us, what profit is there to gain the whole world and forfeit your life, okay? What profit is there to gain the whole world and forfeit your life? All right, so we're going to move on now to the next parable, which, let me get my, okay, which was Matthew 18:10 through 14, which is where we have the parable of the lost sheep, okay? Now, you guys have heard this before, right? 100 sheep, one goes astray. Jesus leaves the 99 to go recover the lost sheep. He will not abandon us. All right, Jesus will seek us if we go astray because remember, he wants us to be close to him. He wants us to be with him. But this is where it's important that we have trust. Okay? Trust is huge here. Trust in the Lord. And even praying to God where we feel that we lack trust in our lives. We actually see that in the Gospel of Mark, chapter 9, verse 24. Jesus is speaking to a man. The man says, Lord, I believe, help my unbelief. Okay, we need to pray to Jesus to help our unbelief so that in those areas of our life where we do not trust him, especially in this crazy time, there's lots of unknowns in our world right now. When are we going to be able to get back to normal life? We need to trust in the Lord, but also trust that when we sin, that He's going to come after us and that He wants us to come back to Him. So that is that. Those are the main themes of the lost sheep parable. We have Matthew chapter 25. Now, there's really actually three big parables in Matthew 25. We did not go over the first one, which was the parable of the 10 virgins. But here we're going to go through, well, very quickly, we'll go through the talents again. Okay, which we covered early this year. You guys watched a Bishop Barron video on the talents. And if you remember from the talents, Bishop Barron talked of this Hebrew word kabod, okay, which was a weightiness, okay, literally in Hebrew, a Hebrew word meaning weightiness, okay, and then translated into later Greek and Latin as glory, all right, as glory. Um, and so not necessarily literally this passage is not necessarily to be interpreted as, okay, yes, we each have gifts and we need to use those gifts, okay? It goes deeper than that. We're talking about the glory of God, okay? God's gifts to us, his grace and mercy, which have this great glorious weight to it. And we are not to take that for granted, okay? Even again in times like this where there's lots of unknowns, it seems like there's lots of things in our life being taken away from us that we have to sacrifice, um, that we still have God's grace and mercy in our lives. And we should use God's grace. We should allow God's grace to overflow in our lives and to spread. And of course, through the parable of the talents, uh, one man is given 5 talents. He's given maybe you might say 5 pieces of God's glory. And the next one is given 2, and the next one is given 1. And those who had 5 and those who had 2, they went and they made more of them. They increased God's grace in their lives. Whereas the man who had 1, he went and buried it. Okay, he hid it and did not share that grace with others. And so he was cast out into the darkness where there was wailing and grinding of teeth. Where we have the judgment of nations. Okay? And this is big. We've learned about the term nations, okay? All of the nations. All right, and this here includes Jews and Gentiles. All right, and we've learned what Gentiles are when we talked about St. Paul's letters. Okay, we have Jews and Gentiles. Jesus is going to come, he's going to judge everyone, and he's going to separate the sheep, okay, from the goats. All right, and we'll make a little dividing line here where we have the sheep, of course, being those who took care of the poor. All right, and then the goats, of course, did not take care of the poor. All right, and it's pretty straightforward here. You have the sheep, the goats. Sheep get to go to heaven. They took care of the poor, which in reality, taking care of the poor was to take care of Christ. And then, of course, you have the goats neglected the poor and they neglected Christ in their lives. Now, there's symbolism here, real quick, with the sheep and the goats. This is not the only time in the Bible where we have imagery of sheep and goats. Okay? We also have it in Exodus chapter 12. All right, and this chapter 12, verse 5, to be more specific, is the Passover, the description of the Jewish Passover. Okay, and God tells the Israelites, he tells Moses, you may take the unblemished lamb that you're going to sacrifice, and that you have the whole thing with putting the blood on the doorposts. And he says, you may take from either the sheep or the goats. You may take a lamb from either the sheep or the goats. And that is some of the first imagery here in the Bible that we have, that salvation again is for all. Remember, we talked about St. Paul, salvation through Jesus Christ. Salvation is for Jews and Gentiles, and really for anyone who does the word of God, who does the will of God. Um, and so the sheep, we get this imagery of the sheep are those who do the will of God. Okay, whether you're Jew or Gentile, if you do the will of God, you fall amongst the sheep. If you take care of the poor, if you recognize Christ in others. And then the goats, okay, and the sheep, of course, go to heaven. The goats don't go to heaven. Um, and the goats are those who do not do the will of God. Again, regardless of Jew or Gentile. Hope that video was helpful, guys. Please let me know what you think in the Zoom meeting tomorrow or on Google Classroom. Comment. Let me know what you think. I have no doubt that you guys will be brutally honest with me. So please, please do. Hope it was fun. Hope it was helpful. God bless. Praying for you guys. And I'll talk to you later.